Good afternoon. I'm Jyoti Joshi. I work with Cambridge School, Noida. I had joined there as computer teacher. Then I took over the role of academic coordinator, academic supervisor, and I have also worked as officiating principal. I am a Google certified instructor, and I'm also a CBSC trainer. Today, the topic scaffolding in education. Every student has a potential to succeed, and what they often need is the right support. Scaffolding in education, a strategy that makes this possible. So let's start. And before we start with our journey, let's discuss the common classroom challenges that teachers face. We have seen diverse learners with different abilities. They have prior gaps in their knowledge, gaps in their prior knowledge. They lack confidence and fear failure. And at the same time, there is a cognitive overload due to excessive amount of information which is provided to them. It has been observed that teachers' strategies significantly impact students' achievement. So, all these challenges, what we have just discussed, they need a structured and responsive teaching approaches. And let us find out how this session will be able to achieve that. What is scaffolding? It is a temporary instructional support that we provide to our children, the learners, and only for the task which they can't do independently at a particular time. When they are confident and capable enough that they can work independently, then this support is gradually taken away from them. So the goal is the student should move from dependence to independence. There are certain psychological theories which gave rise to this concept, and let's briefly discuss about them. The first theory that we come across is zone of proximal development that emphasizes on where to teach. And this theory was proposed by Lev Vygotsky. And this refers to the gap what the child can learn independently and where he requires the support. So this scaffolding helps to work in this green zone where with efforts we can make the child progress. The very famous movie Hitchki, if you just try to recall the scenes from that movie, there we saw that when Rani Mukherjee has joined the school, she did not apply directly the concepts, or she did not rush with the syllabus. She first tried to understand what is the level of the children, where she has to work. And this is exactly visible that how beautifully she has used the ZPD. Another theory which is related to this is the cognitive load theory, and that emphasizes on how much to teach. When this theory was given by John Swiller, and it explains how human brain processes information. We have limited working memory, which can absorb 5 to 7 items or instructions in a span of 20 seconds. So if we try to provide too much of information, definitely the overload is going to happen. And the outcome will be ineffective learning. So this is another thing that we have to keep in mind while giving our instructions to the children. The third theory, constructivism, which emphasizes on how learning happens. And learning is an active process, we all know this. And knowledge is based on the prior understanding. That means children develop new knowledge if their prior knowledge is there about that particular content. They learn better through inquiry, through collaboration and reflection. And the teacher here acts as a facilitator. And it has been proved that active learning will lead to 70 to 90% retention. So all these theories bring us to a common point, that how we have to support the children. And when we talk about scaffolding, it is providing the right level of challenge to the students at the right time. Because too easy instruction will lead to boredom. And if it is too complex, then students will be frustrated. So the right guidance at the right time will bridge this gap. And that is what is scaffolding. Let us understand the techniques which can be used by teachers to achieve this goal, that learning is always fruitful, enjoyable, and the students ultimately become independent. So the first concept that we talk about is modeling with guided practice. So when we are saying modeling with guided practice, that means the teacher acts as a model and she can make use of think aloud strategy, where she is trying to verbalize her thoughts. We can take a common example. For example, in a maths classroom, a teacher is, she wants to perform some equation, solve some equation. So rather than just directly going to the board and solving the equation, she can verbalize it. First, I will read the question, then I will find out what is given, and then I will decide the formula to be used. This verbal thought, which has been verbalized, this will help the child to relate that how he has to proceed in his journey whenever he's solving such kind of equations. So the teacher has provided the guidance, it's a guided support, and then feedback will definitely help the children to learn better. So what we have done here, show through modeling, then support, practice, leading to an independent learner. Another concept that we can use is the flexible grouping and differentiation. Usually we as teachers have a tendency to create groups in such a manner that we always have an advanced learner in the group who will be able to at least achieve the target, the goal which is behind that project or whatever. But the actual concept, what is defined here is, we should make rather a group of similar capacity of learners who have similar level of learning, and the advanced learner can be grouped. This is the initial process. So what we will do, similar learners are there in a group, so teacher can focus on the group which has novice learners, which requires more support. And the advanced learners will definitely be given the support, but we will have a different kind of treatment for them because they require less support. So with this differentiated support, we will see gradually the group of novice learners will also start learning. And when there is a change in their, means that level of learning has improved, then this reshuffling can take place. So this is a strategy that can be used in classroom to achieve scaffolding and to make the slow learners the advanced learners. Another important thing that we usually ignore at times, visuals and statistics. It plays a very important role. So what we can do is we can try to make the complex topic or the content simpler by using right visuals. So you can simplify it, highlight only the required information, and give a clear statistics. So that will be what they are viewing, that will get imposed here. So it will be helpful for them to understand the concept in an easy way. As I said, advanced learners also need support. We just can't ignore them because they are learning better. So the strategy which we can use with them is to provide challenging tasks. So why so? Because their level is higher than these novice learners, and definitely if you provide a task which is lower than their capacity, then they will tend to get bored. So what we have to do is we have to provide them a challenging task so that they also enjoy it, and they are not they are able to achieve a task. You can assign a kind of role where they are leading a team, they are monitoring, they are preparing some kind of uh, tutorials for helping your novice learners. So it's a win-win situation because they are learning something and it is helping the teacher also. Remember to avoid split attention. That means providing a text somewhere else when we are giving a presentation. For example, if I write a text here and I refer to a picture which is on our next slide, then that creates a confusion because the child, it becomes difficult for the student to relate both the concepts. So try to make it simple by presenting text and visuals together. So, and what we speak aligns with what is being shown to them. This will prevent the unnecessary overloading on their working memory. And there is no point of providing similar kind of data or information to them again and again. So we have to ensure that duplicacy or redundancy is avoided. For example, reading whatever is shown on the screen line by line. So there is no new learning which is happening. Rather, if the pointers are there and the teacher discusses that, that is definitely going to help. The child will be involved and will be the part of the discussion. Now, coming to transient information. Transient informations are the informations that disappear quickly. For example, when we are teaching using lecture method, whatever we speak, we have a flow of speaking, whatever we speak, uh, that might not be immediately being absorbed by the students. And if that is not being absorbed by them, then definitely it is going to create an overload. So we have to give time to our students to think, to absorb, and to process what the teacher or we as teachers are discussing in the class. So there are different techniques which can be used. Teachers can use pacing, pauses, or chunking by converting a complex problem into simpler ones. This is what is known as chunking. So these techniques can be used for using scaffolding in the classroom. Another very important concept that we have is the gradual release method. Now, what happens if we talk initially, as I said, the student needs more support. So the more responsibility lies on the teacher. So here teacher is playing the lead role by modeling and this child observes. And then the next stage comes when the child is asked to perform, the teacher is observing and helping wherever the child requires the guidance. And the next level at the bottommost in the triangle, if you can see here, the role responsibility of the child increases. Initially, the responsibility of the student is less and the teacher responsibility is more. And later, gradually, we'll see the responsibility of teacher is decreasing and the responsibility of the child is increasing. So at this stage, the child becomes independent learner. So this concept can be used when we have different types of learners in the class. Scaffolding also helps to solve the classroom challenges that we discussed in the beginning. So how it works? If we have a complex topic, then the teacher can use the techniques like modeling or chunking, simpler top, converting them to simpler ones. If we have dependency of learners, that means they are dependent on us. So we have gradually release them by providing less support, and then gradually they will start working independent. For advanced learners, we have to provide them complex tasks. And when we have a mixed ability group in the class, so we have to ensure that the grouping is done in a manner where the flexibility is there. Initially, we have a similar group people as I discussed already, and then that reshuffling takes place. So as per the needs, the group will be created. And if there is overload, then we will manage the cognitive load. So all these techniques that I have discussed here, if they are implemented in the classroom, then definitely we will be able to help the child in moving from office journey from a novice learner to an advanced learner, from a dependent learner to an independent learner. And this is what is the role of scaffolding. So if I talk about the NEP, it also emphasizes on these, the concept that they have taken. This they have used all these theories, and the new concept of education was done, and then NCF is aligned with your NEP. So all, and now the new books which have been released by CBSE, if you see the class 9th book, we can see that this concept of scaffolding has been used in the book. So with these efforts, we will be able to convert a child into a more confident by using engagement in different kinds of activities. So this is ultimately what we can conclude, that scaffolding helps building learners' confidence, improving engagement, making him into an independent learner. And so then the actual goal of the teacher will be achieved, because the goal is not just to teach, but to transform a learner from a novice learner to an advanced learner, and who can work independently. When we talk about support, here support doesn't mean only academic support. The teacher has to provide emotional support, mental support, because see, if a teacher comes to a class and directly just gives her presentations or teach, then it would, the child, if he's not able to enjoy the lecture, then the teaching won't be effective. So as teacher, it is important for us to understand the different types of support that the child needs. Maybe the way we talk, if it is not that lively, if it is not, the child doesn't feel approachable to us, he might not come to us for asking for any kind of problems. Maybe when we are talking, the child is not able to feel motivated. So we have to ensure, and very closely we have to observe the needs of the students, uh, whether he needs motivation, because a small motivation, kind words from the teacher will make a lot of change in the way the child will learn. So I hope with this small presentation, I have been able to achieve, rather, it should be a discussion rather, where we can together work on this, because ultimately change is difficult, but it is also inevitable. So I conclude here with the famous quote from Lev Vygotsky: "What a child can do today with help, they can do tomorrow independently." Thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Jyoti. Very well presented, ma'am. Very informative session. Since there are no audience, I'll ask you some questions. Can you please stop sharing the screen?
Yeah, sure, ma'am.
So, ma'am, what specific tools help identify knowledge gaps in diverse classrooms?
Ma'am, when we initially, as when we are talking about the introduction of the chapter, for example, so when you start asking the child questions, probing, discussions, because directly starting, we have to understand the level of the children. So that will be possible when you give a starter activity through which you can assess what are the actual level of them, and then you can proceed further.
So, how do you handle resistance, ma'am, from advanced learners given challenging tasks?
Ma'am, I understand that it is slightly difficult when we have more students in the class, but when we have less students, that is possible. So what we can do is we can divide those complex groups into means a huge number of class into small groups, and then they can be given projects that I am not saying the project should be given to one and the other should be deprived. That can be a rotating project. But initially, uh, there has to be a difference in the level of the project so that the advanced learners can should not feel bored initially, and they don't feel like doing, or they take it for granted that we are able to do it. So some challenging tasks to be done to them. But our emphasis and focus is on the novice learners because they are the ones who require support.
So, ma'am, what are the indications? What indicators show a student is ready for independent learning?
Ma'am, if in a class when I see that I'm talking to particular students and they are not able to give me the answer, I have understood their level, current level. And when we work on them, and then we, during our interactions, during their submissions, during the activities, we find that their interest develops. They start responding to queries. They take initiatives, and that are the clear indicators that now the gradual support, that support that we were providing, that has to be gradually removed, and we can see the transition that the child is improving.
Right. Each child is unique in their own way, right? So, how do you balance time between different ability groups?
This is a challenging task, and nowadays when we say we have to make a balance, because teacher's job is, teacher is a multitasker, so with all many other responsibilities around on our shoulders, yes, it is difficult for her to make a balance. But grouping will definitely help, because these groups, see, independent, independently, if she works on every child, might not be, she might not get that much time. But when you prepare groups and then you work on that group, so at least it would be achievable.
Right. So, ma'am, this is the digital era. Gen Z is like all about, digital technology. So, what role does any technology, not talking about only this, any technology play in implementing scaffolding techniques?
Yes, ma'am, technology plays a very important role, and I being a tech teacher, so whatever my complex things which were difficult during by using lecture method, they can be easily now delivered to the students by using visuals, by using videos, by using so many tools available through AI. So I would say rather the burden of teacher has reduced, because we have now got plenty of resources which can be used. So then scaffolding can easily be implemented in that case, because technology is a boon to the teacher.
Right. So, ma'am, can these techniques work effectively in large classroom sizes too?
As I said, ma'am, it's a challenge, but it is not impossible.
It's not impossible. Right. Yeah. So, how do you train teachers to implement flexible grouping effectively, ma'am?
Ma'am, that training, see, just giving a training which is theoretical in is nature is not going to give us productive result. So that training is obviously when the classroom, the teacher deals, and it is more of, I would say, learning by doing. So initially, a teacher finds a challenge in a classroom while dealing with a particular project. She also learns. And then, yes, there are professional developments, training sessions which are conducted in the school. Then we have CPBs by CBSC. So, yes, there are a lot of things happening, but implementation depends how the teacher takes it. And it has to be an initiative by the learner to learn something. So, yes, definitely the teacher can do it, but and as supervisors we also help teachers by telling them, by observing their classes, and wherever they require our support, that is done in our system.
Right. So, though you are saying that like you will be helping, the supervisors will be there to help the teachers. But what are some common mistakes teachers make when applying these techniques?
The common mistakes, we can say, for example, is first, maybe initially the right level is to be identified, where sometimes they lack. Because when for example, if I'm a teacher, I directly go to the class, and without probing, if I start my lecture, so that is a wrong technique. I need to first assess them. So before starting my lecture, if I don't talk to the children, if I don't try to assess what the level they are at, so that is where we are wrong at the first step itself.
Right. So, ma'am, does this scaffolding technique differ across age groups or grade levels?
Yes, ma'am. Initially, see, yes, definitely it differs. For the younger group of children of primary years or classes till 5, they require a different kind of support. Emotional support is there. Then involvement of teacher is more, and maybe for a longer period duration. And they need empathy also. They all things are there for the senior category of students as well, but the style and the approach varies.
So, coming to the assessment methods, ma'am. So, what assessment methods best evaluate the effectiveness of scaffolding?
Ma'am, there is no single assessment method. We will have to use multiple ways of assessing the child. And as I said, technology is a boon. So that it is a great help by technology, because now we can easily use multiple assessment ways and in a less span of time. So that, unnecessary checking load, or because assessment is not always through, long Q&As. It can be simple MCQs, simple project based questions where you provide a video to a child and ask the child to assess. So if I'm giving a simple activity to a child to go through the video and get me 5 critical points that he has observed, so I can easily make out that the child has learned.
So, where do you, uh, in the sense like coming to the parental support, where do you see the parental support should be there into these scaffolding strategies? Where can you
Yes, ma'am.
incorporate? Yeah,
It
sorry.
is very important because teaching and learning is not only between student and teachers. Parent plays an important role, and therefore they should be involved in it. For example, the parent, when what happens that we if research work or project is given in the classroom by the teacher to the students, and so the parent can be involved in that research. The parent, I'm not saying the parent has to do that work. They can be interactive with the child. They can suggest more resources to the child. There can be an open discussion on it. And so definitely there will be a learning that is happening at the school as well as at home or with the peers, with the parents. And then definitely the scaffolding is there in whatever form it is.
So you mentioned about groups, right? In your view, how frequently should groups be reshuffled?
That depends on the topic, that depends on the time that can be devoted, that depends on the learning of the child. So there are different parameters. It's not a hardcore rule that after so many times or so many days this should be changed, but for that the right observer is the teacher. So if as a teacher I see that a particular activity which I gave, this group has worked like this, maybe the second activity that I gave, now I have been able to observe as a teacher that this group, these are the ones who have been able to perform better and they need more support. So the next grouping can be based on that. And I would also rather say that all the time it is not the teacher also to make the groups. It is the freedom should be given to students also, because then also they realize the responsibility and they might be able to assess at times that this group, because otherwise then the child might not be very much interested. So it has to be done very statistic in such a manner that the problem is solved for both, not for the teacher as well as for the student.
Right. So coming to the advanced learners, ma'am, in the groups, right? They act like tutors or helpers like that. So how do you prevent these advanced learners from feeling burdened as tutors?
When we advanced learners, see ma'am, advanced learners are already confident people, confident students. They know that they have a high level of learning, and so when they are given a responsibility, they enjoy doing it, because then they have a responsibility, they feel that they have owned it, and they also have a responsibility toward their peer, where they try to help the child to improve, and they provide all type of support. Sometimes they help them through tutorials, they, because I have seen this in my class also, they help them by providing tutorials. Sometimes they are doing one to one interaction, and sometimes he's teaching the particular child. So they don't take it as a burden.
Okay. So we have applied these techniques, and the advanced learners also acted as the helping agent and everything. So what metrics indicate successful transition from dependence to independence, ma'am?
Ma'am, as I said, the strategies when we are using, then there is I'm sorry, what you said, what you are asking for the
When we
figure.
apply, yeah, when we apply the technique, right? You applied the technique, and in the group, the advanced learners are also there. Like they're acting as helping to the little slow learners or anything like that. So once you have applied the technique and everything, what does it indicate? Like, how do we know the transition from dependence to independence?
Ma'am, it should be it is rather, as I said, depends on situation to situation how it has been incorporated, but yes, 30 to 35% it will definitely work, and it will improve, because initially this will not give a good result which is very satisfactory, because we also learn that how these techniques are helping us. We also learn that by using technique X last time this worked, and now I with X, if I use Y technique, then I'm going to upgrade myself as a teacher and for getting a better result. So it varies, but yes, it is actually the results are overwhelming, we can say, because um, 30 to 35% if we are having an increase, then that is a good
Yeah, it climbs the ladder
result.
step by step, maybe.
Exactly, step by step.
Yes. So thank you so much, ma'am. Because of the time constraint, I have to stop the Q&A session. Anything else you want to mention before I end the session, Jyoti?
No, ma'am, I just want to thank you, Ms. Pravina, that it's a wonderful initiative that you are taking, because, this is giving us an option, a platform, rather to share what we as teachers can share knowledge with each other. And with this, see, whatever techniques that I use, they are not new, but when something is being reminded to us again and again, and then we get a we get a feeling that we have to start again. So this platform is helping us by going through the different lectures from different teachers, and then we pick up one unique point from there, and we start implementing it. So it's
Yes.
a gradual learning process for all the teachers also, this entire community of teachers.
The pleasure is ours hosting you, ma'am. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge on our platform. Have a great day. I'll end the
Thank
session
you.
now.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you.